So what we're planning on doing today or this morning is to give you an idea of the challenges that we've overcome around Zoom and Meet and Teams. So Sandy and I are going to split you up into two groups, and basically all we're going to do is we'll kind of talk you through some of the things that you can do with this platform. Now, Sandy, are you quite comfortable to take some people into another room and just play about with the thing? Is that all right? Okay, Nick, you and Mark and David, if you go into the other room, so if you do that now, so
Ah. Yeah, we've got a nicer view in this room, I think.
the other thing with the platform you'll find is nobody needs to be on mute. We can have conversations. It doesn't stop one person from interacting with more than one individual at a time. It's what we call dynamic audio. So if I keep talking, Yannick, I should get to the back of the room. It should work, eh? So if I keep talking, you should hear my voice go quieter. Yeah. So if I'm at the back now, right. So that's what we mimicked with the workshop. That now means that we can have conversations in a big space. So you can have micro groups. So what this allows you to do, for instance, if you've got a group of say 8 and you want to split them into two groups of 4, we can make the space big enough so that the two groups can split off into bottom and top, and you cannot hear each group, although they're all in the same room.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So that allows us to be able to do that. So it's mimicking the face-to-face workshops as much as we can.
Probably right to say that I am like the one-eyed man in the kingdom of the blind, which I suppose is actually quite a good place to describe my experiences. Peter, myself, and David ran 3 sessions with Duncan of Jordanston and learned a lot from doing that. But it was funny about March, April, when Peter and I started doing Zoom training, it becomes second nature to us quite quickly, and I think this will too. And I think David can probably best maybe talk us through some of the options we've got here that we can play with, which might be quite helpful.
The reason that we set this up, guys, was that I'm a lecturer as well, and as Sandy and Peter, and I wanted to get some people involved who weren't VR people as well as being lecturers, because I'm a bit of both. I wanted to get their perspective on it, but we all shared the same issues, which was that Zoom and Blackboard and a lot of these kind of meeting areas are difficult to use. You have to learn how to use them. You have to spend ages converting your classroom materials so that it will work in a virtual format. And what I said was, we want something that works just like a classroom. That if you've already got your learning materials sorted out, you can just go into the environment and deliver it as you normally would. What we found was that we tried just about every virtual reality training environment out there. Millions have been invested in all of these different platforms, and they were all a bit ropey. They had their problems like updates that didn't work across every device, or they simply only worked on headsets, or they didn't work on Macs, or there was issues, as we discovered, with audio not working as well as it does in Zoom. You could get echoing and you couldn't hear people, and it was terrible. The other problem that we had was that most of these ones, you have to download them onto your machine. And that's a real issue because there's a lot of people who either can't download it, there's firewalls in the way, or they're working on commercial, university machines which block downloads. So this system, as you've discovered, you click on a link and you're in. Now, that's not to say that there's no security. We can add on levels of security, password protection, two-stage authentication using your phone and other devices. All of that can be done.
So when I've been doing Zoom and Teams training since March, it's probably taken me 4 times as long to design a training course than it would have been to design it for a face-to-face. What it's allowed me to do when we did the pilot with Dundee Uni in November was I developed the training course, and I didn't need to do much editing to it from what we would do with a face-to-face.
And proximity chat for like all this stuff sounds fantastic. That's definitely been one of the downsides of things like Zoom, where even if you've got 3 people, as soon as other person starts to try and talk, it just cuts off the other person. Then that sort of proximity chat would be brilliant.
Yeah, you can already tell that the way we are having a conversation here is so much more natural than in Zoom. It's funny, like since the start of the whole COVID period, I've met people in these kinds of platforms that I've never met in real life, but I have a way better understanding of knowing them than seeing their faces on Zoom, and that's a really funny thing.
We can bring objects into the room. So I'm going to bring just a quick object into the room. Here we go, a little car. And you can use that to either scale up the object or scale it down, delete it. So does anybody want to move that around? There we go. You want to see if you can try to scale it up using your spacebar and the little arrow thing? There we go. So that what we're seeing here is that if you use the little thing that looks like a magic wand at the top middle of your menu, that's where you can bring in any object you want. So it's not just from the list of objects that we have here that we're playing with. You can actually preload ones that are relevant to the class that you're delivering, which can be really, really useful, particularly if the point is to show a brand new component which has maybe just come out that you're wanting to talk about and demonstrate.
I'm going to then click on a video and press share. And that should then come up on here. So there's nothing you need to do. You can have this all set up. So you can go into a Chrome tab and suddenly it comes through on there. You can scale, as you can see, Yannick can scale it to any size that they want. Now, one of the things that we're doing just now is, if you want to, we can actually, each individual person in the room could have their own screen with that on it. And what that means is they can be anywhere in the room and see it. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can do everything that you could do on your laptop and it's dead easy. You just go between two tabs.
Another thing that we can do here, as you noticed, was that we can move from room to room. Now, what we're working on is being able to move into different training environments and different kinds of environments, like 360-degree video. And it means that we can actually take a group of us into a 360 environment, which feels like you're actually there. Now, this takes even less bandwidth than the classroom that we're in, because as far as the virtual reality is concerned, it's a single object. But it means that we can go on essentially a field trip. We can go to an environment like, for instance, offshore oil platform, wind turbine, class, anything that's relevant to the class that you're delivering, and we can go there, see it, discuss it, and then come back and talk about it later on. You notice at the top of your menu, there's a thing that looks like a pen, just to the right of your little magic wand. If you click on that, you can then draw in the air in front of you, which means that you can actually, again, annotate things. You can point to your object, you can say hi, you can draw whatever you want. Now, what we're working on is being able to draw on a whiteboard with this. But what we're also working on is being able to type directly onto whiteboards. There's another thing that you can do, and I'm just going to test it, but you just have a wee play with that. Try drawing something in the air in front of you. And then once you've finished, you can click the pen again, and that will turn it into a 3D object, just like the ones you've been playing with. And you can expand it, contract it, delete it, rotate it, and all the things that you were just doing. Next thing I'd like you guys to try is that you can actually bring up a camera to show what you're seeing. So again, to the right of the pen, you'll see a thing that looks like a camera. Click that, and that'll bring a camera into your space. Now, again, if you hit the space bar, you should be able to rotate that. You can either take a selfie, or you can flip it around and take a photo of the class. And then once you click that, it should give you a 3-second countdown, and then it will take the photo. There we go. I'm hearing some of them taking photos now. There we go. And then once you've taken that photo, you can drag it. You can, you'll see it appear below your camera. You can drag it, you can expand it, contract it, everything that you were doing with your objects there.
How do you get rid of the photograph, David?
Again, just put your cursor on it, press your space bar, and it should give you the option to delete it just like any other object. Is that working for you?
Yeah.
Excellent. You see how the actual mechanics of it are quite basic. It's just as long as you know to press the space bar and you know what those icons can do, that's pretty much exactly how all the other objects work. Now we start to get to the very cool stuff. And the very cool stuff is you can bring up your screen. So I want you to go to the very left of your menu at the top there, and you'll see a thing that looks like a screen. When you hover over it, it will highlight, it will create a wee drop down, and the drop down includes a camera as well as a screen. So depending on what you want to do, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking a video of ourselves. So just go down to that camera, click on it, and now the camera will be in the main menu. You see that?
Yeah.
So now I want you to click on that camera so that it shows that you're streaming. I think I am already. Can you see my screen appearing?
Hmm.
Yeah, and there's you, Sandy.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And you can use by hitting spacebar, you can rotate that, you can scale it up and down. And as we have an active screen at the end of the room here, if you drag it onto that active screen, and I want you all to have a try of this. Sandy, do you want to try this as well? There we go.
Oh.
There we are. Thank you,
David.
Sandy.
David, I've got a
Hello.
question.
Yes.
I can hear Lynn speaking. Does that mean we can hear the other classroom?
It's possible that the other
possible?
classroom is right next to ours in physical, well, in virtual physical
So,
space.
so
So
it
it's
would be like
possible
real
that,
life.
yeah. So what we can do is we can, as I mentioned to Nick earlier on, we can alter the audio sensitivity, or we can physically move the classrooms apart so that that doesn't
Right.
happen. But I think that just like in a real classroom, if somebody was talking loud enough in the next door room, you'd be able to hear them. It's just like
Right.
that.
Can I ask another question?
Go for it.
Of course, when we all talked about VR in the past, it was always about we would need a headset. It appears to me that this works perfectly well without a headset, but what are
That's
the
right.
advantages of having a headset?
Very good question. Do you notice that none of us have got hands in this environment? Well,
Yes, yes,
the thing about having a virtual reality headset is that you'll usually either it will be able to see your physical hands and bring them into the environment, or you'll have controllers that you'll be holding in each hand. Now, it's
Right.
surprising how much advantage that gives us in terms of communication. Do you see my hand gestures? That becomes a major part of how we communicate, particularly in this kind
Right.
of environment. So that is one of the major advantages.
right.
Other than that, it's just that tiny bit simpler because you're not having to use, keyboard controls or mouses and that kind of thing. You just look
Yes.
around and, you just click to go forward or use your little, control to go forward. So it's just super easy to do. But other
Right.
than that, it's mainly that other people can see your hands moving around.
Whereas I noticed I can actually see your mouth moving in your avatar.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. It picks up in the audio of me talking or of any of us talking. And the purpose
Yes.
of this is so that you can see as a teacher, as a tutor, who is talking to you, or as any other participant, if you're in a group, who's actually speaking at any given point, which is again surprisingly useful. The other thing that
Yes.
happens is that your eyes will move in the direction of the person who's speaking so that they feel that they're being engaged with. It's just
Yes.
simple little aspects of interpersonal psychology which have been brought in here to great effect, I think. So you can share your entire screen, your application window. So if you're running something like PowerPoint or Slides or Zoom, then you can share that. And then also you can share a Chrome tab. So if what you were running was, let's say, Google Slides, then you could, or YouTube even, you could share that. This means that we can actually share videos. Again, it means that when you're in the classroom, you can say, okay, now we're going to have a video. And then you can then say, okay, now I'm going to bring up my slides, and you can just go through your slides as you normally would, whether that be PowerPoint or something online. You can bring up things like Zoom boards, Jamboards, anything that you would normally use in a classroom. And as I mentioned, you can bring physical objects into the room to actually look at. Right, I'm going to type something into my chat. Oh, there we go. And you see that I've managed to make my chat appear in the room. That means that we can use that, there we go, by basically typing something into your chat box, and then instead of clicking send, click the little magic wand. That will make that appear in the room. So that means that you can use it for annotating blackboards, you can use it as a post-it note, you can use it for annotating three-dimensional objects. And again, it's exactly the same as any of the other three-dimensional objects. You can just use that for, you can just move it around, shrink it, grow it, and make it disappear. I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's all go back into the other classroom and join the others. So if you want to go into the back of the room, And then just again, just like we got in here, just go up to the back of the room and then click on the little icon and the pink thing that comes up when you hover over it. So that door, and then the pink thing, and then just click on that and that'll take us back into the other classroom.
So yeah, there's lots of psychology around this, and there'll be more to come out, I'm sure. The environmental choices, when I'm training in the Middle East, it's a day for me to get there and a day for me to get back. Well, not now. My entrepreneurship program will be done through this platform in Oman. It's about the facilitator. What we don't want to do is, I don't want to overwhelm a facilitator by bringing them into a room. Suddenly they've got this new technology and they've got all these bells and whistles that we can have. So at this point in time, what we've done is we bring them into a normal classroom that gives them less anxiety, and they can play a or they can show a PowerPoint, or they can play a video, or they can write on the blackboard or on post-it notes or whatever. It's that kind of thing. Yes, we can go many different ways with this, but I believe just now it's just to get facilitators buying into the fact that they can use this technology, and from there it's up to them how they want to design it for themselves. How's everybody doing? How does everybody feel? You've been in there for an hour and 20 minutes now.
Have we?
Yep.
You know what? It's so nice not having a little square that's yourself talking back at you. Like, you don't have to care what you look like either, which is dead nice.
That's the good bit for me, yes, absolutely. I'm with you on that one.
Does it feel to you guys like you've been in here for an hour and 20 minutes?
No.
No, definitely not.
I'm astounded.
Can
to be
you
honest.
imagine?
Like, I'm actually astounded.
It feels like a really.
Do you think, Glenn,
interesting-
if we were using it on Zoom, it would feel like we've been in here for an hour and 20 minutes?
I feel like
Yeah.
I've been here for about 4 hours, to be honest.
Sorry, Mark, you were saying something.
It just feels like a really interesting class. Feels like I'm in the room, which is really good.
Peter, you mentioned that with and Sandy, you've mentioned that you've had to actually even change the duration of your classroom sessions because of Zoom fatigue. Do you think you would have to do that with this?
No, I don't think so. I think Lynn's point was quite well taken, that in Zoom, I always have a break after an hour. I think that's all you can manage. You need a comfort break after an hour. And there we've been going an hour and 20. And I hadn't thought about why that should make a difference. And I think it's the fact that you've got a bit more spatial awareness here than you have on Zoom. And I think that's the difference, and that's more restful.
Yeah, this is 3D. Zoom's 2D.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just simply a more engaging environment. You know, looking at lots of
Yeah.
squares of people is, you know, they don't change, but this
No,
is changing all
no.
the time. It's just much more interactive, and yeah, I think that's probably one of the main reasons.
Yes.
Yeah,
You know,
yes.
from a teacher's perspective, from a lecturer's perspective, I don't know how many of you here are lecturers, but if you've ever had to speak to a silent classroom where they just don't respond at all, it's exhausting. It's like you're pouring yourself into them and you're getting nothing back to give you that energy feedback that you need. But here, we're getting to talk to each other like you would do in a normal class. And those engaged classes are a joy to deliver because they're far less tiring, and the students are doing some of the work for you. But also those tend to be the ones that you enjoy more as a student, because you don't feel that you've just sat there and been talked at for the last hour or whatever. You know, you're actually having a bit of to and fro, you know, and that's one of the advantages I think here.
Like, a lot of the workshops that I do are really interactive, and there's quite a lot of
Yeah.
movement from one activity to the other. Is it up to each individual to then move away from the space and then go into the other room? How do breakout rooms work, essentially, is what I'm asking.
I think the best way to think of it is like a normal classroom. So as you would do it in a normal physical classroom, so you would say to people, I want group A to go over to this corner, to go into the next room, and just treat it like that. So we need to kind of move away from the Zoom thinking and just move back into the classroom thinking.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing you can do, Lynn, which is great for me for a facilitator, is I have the ability that when the time's up, I can bring all groups in. They've got no choice over it. They get told they've got 60 seconds and they're all back in the room. You don't have to go chasing people.
Yep.
Okay.
Looking good. There's this thing about the space. I think that's my biggest takeaway, that you feel like you could spend a lot of time in here because of the space around you, as opposed to being on the crammed in Zoom multi squares of people. And yeah, that's they could easily spend ages on this. No bother.
The point, I can't remember who was making it about the environment. I would have the other side of that is that youngsters like to have something that's recognizable. Now, I'm not saying youngsters are all sitting in desks like this anymore, but if there's the opportunity to create an environment that is similar to their existing classroom, albeit it's now a virtual one, then I think that makes so much more sense because it makes them much more comfortable. It's something they recognize. In terms of usability, I mean, I'm one of the old ones here, and if I can use it, then I'm guessing most children are far superior to me in terms of keyboard skills. So I don't see any issues there. Assuming, and I think that's been answered, that you can use it on multiple devices.
Mac, Windows, smartphones, iPhones, tablets, the sky's the limit.